So let's talk more about Johnny Cash. I've mentioned in a video before that Johnny Cash is my favorite singer from the 20th century. And of course, many people love Johnny Cash. He really is an American icon. And he was unique for a lot of ways. I mean, for one thing, he was a crossover artist, and his music spans so many different genres, whether you're thinking of early rock and roll, or country music, or gospel music, or the blues. Johnny Cash touched all those different genres. In the course of his career, he was both a Grammy winner. He also performed in many prisons, famously doing many free prison concerts, and also took the stage with Billy Graham in many of Billy Graham's crusades. You may not know this, but Johnny Cash made a film about Jesus, about the life of Jesus, called The Gospel Road, filmed it on location in Palestine. And he wrote a novel about the Apostle Paul called Man in White. And of course, Cash himself was known as the Man in Black. So there's lots of reasons to love Cash, and there's lots of places to go to get to know his music and know about his life. But I just pulled together my own Cash stash and thought I would share some of my favorite things with you. This may be one of the best places to go if you want to get to know Cash's music for the first time. This is the Legend of Johnny Cash. A great compilation of some of his best songs. So you get songs such as Cry, 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 Folsom Prison Blues, I Walk the Line. These are some of the classic songs that Cash is known for. It's a great CD or great album. Of course, you can just find this on Spotify now. There's also a great little trilogy called Love, God, and Murder. And that really does cover three themes that you find in Cash's music. So there certainly are the love songs. You might think of Jackson or other songs like that. But you also have the gospel songs about God and about redemption and so on. You have some of those songs on the God album. And then you get the darker side of Cash in the Murder album. You might wonder why Christians would be interested in those kinds of songs, but one of the things I think you see in Cash's music is that when he writes and sings about sin and about the brokenness of the world and even about crimes and those kinds of things, there's almost always really direct consequences to sin. Cash understood personally in his own life the consequences of right and wrong. And he was a man that in his own life suffered in a lot of ways because of choices he made, and yet experienced the Lord's redemption in that brokenness. My favorite series of albums are the American recordings. So they all look kind of the same. These were produced by Rick Rubin. These are late in Cash's life, and there's a number of these albums, the American recordings. They're really good, and you get some of the best stuff that Johnny Cash ever did took place in the last decade of his life. Also just wanted to highlight a couple of biographies. This is the first biography I read called The Man Called Cash by Steve Turner, The Life, Love, and Faith of an American Legend. So this looks especially at Cash's family, looks at his faith. It's a good book and kind of gives you a window into Johnny Cash. Probably the most detailed biography, at least that I know of, is Robert Hilburn's Johnny Cash, The Life. This just came out a couple of years ago. It's much longer, and this is a more unvarnished look at Johnny Cash's life. You get a lot of the brokenness and a lot of the ugly stuff in Cash's life is told in that volume. But it's still, I think, a very helpful read and will be interesting to anyone who loves Cash. And then finally, there is a film. If you haven't seen this, the film Walk the Line with Joaquin Phoenix, Reese Witherspoon playing Johnny Cash, and eventually his wife, June Carter. Her name slipped my mind for a minute. It's a wonderful film. It's I think one thing that's amazing about it is that they did the music, so it wasn't dubbed over. They actually did the singing and did an amazing job, and it's a good way to kind of get an introduction to Cash. Unfortunately, it only gives you a part of the life. It's more about the broken years, kind of those early years of Johnny Cash and the dissolution of his first marriage, and then his relationship with June Carter, whom he eventually married. So you don't get as much of the redemption in that story, but the music's good and you get part of the story, and it might whet your appetite for more.